West beats East, tariff consequences, and it's the system, man. Welcome to the Unlimited Supply Podcast, your daily music business TLDR in your ear, powered by too many open browser tabs and brought to you by No Disc, helping music technology and finance companies navigate the music industry in partnership with Digital Music News. It's Friday, April 11th, 2025. I'm Lars Murray in cold, snowy upstate New York. What the heck, man? It's Finance Friday, but before we dive into the shallow frozen money trench, once again, it's Q1 market share season. Yesterday, Billboard ran down the U.S. market share of labels and label groups for the first quarter. The suspects were usual, the shares were predictable, but for the record, on the label side, Universal Music's West Coast group Interscope beat their East Coast group Republicor for the top spot. Not surprising, given that the highest profile music event of the quarter was the Super Bowl, and Interscope's Kendrick Lamar was the headliner. On the label group scoreboard, UMG is, of course, still number one and managed to tack on another 3 percentage points for a 36% share. Sony came in second, slightly up. Warner Music Group, of course, was third among the majors and basically flat. So all of those gains at UMG and Sony came out of the hides of the indies. Turns out they're pretty good at this market share game. Who knew? Dan Reese ran it down with charts and graphs over at Billboard. If you're planning on dropping everything and heading out to the desert this weekend, Digital Music News has a last-minute guide to Coachella tickets. With one small cavil in Ashley King's piece, Ashley reports that general admission is sold out. It's actually not. You just have to buy a bus shuttle ticket. But that hardly matters because GA tickets on the secondary market have sunk below face value. So if you have an appetite for inflated hotel rates, traffic, constant hydration, and incidentally, a lot of good music, there are bargains to be snapped up. All right, let's dive into the shallow money trench where thieves and pimps run free. Remember a while back when Lily Allen stirred up a kerfuffle by claiming she had to sell pictures of her feet on OnlyFans to support herself because her streaming royalties were so low? And remember when her contemporary, Kate Nash, announced she was doing pretty much the same thing? Substitute bum for feet? Well, the Kate Nash version of the story resurfaced over at Digital Music News this week as Spotify responded to Nash with the familiar, and I'll paraphrase here, "We paid your label, it's between you and them, nothing personal." Part of the problem is that it's not personal. As Jeff Lebowski might put it, it's the system, man. The thing is, both Spotify and Kate are right, and it's quite possible the label is right too. Who knows if Kate Nash is recouped on her contract? It's always fun and easy to use Spotify as a big piñata, and Lord knows I do it enough, but let's have no illusions. Spotify and her label, UMG, are going to do everything they can do to completely legally hang on to every penny of the money they collect from their customers who pay them to hear Kate Nash's music. It doesn't need to be illegal. It doesn't even necessarily need to be unethical, but it bears repeating 5 times because everything in digital music needs to be repeated 5 times to sink in. The real solution to artists getting paid is consumers paying more, either for Spotify or through tip jars, tickets, merch, crowdfunding, all of those things. Spotify pays out 70% of everything to rights holders. The first and primary reason that trickles down to pennies is because if Spotify raises its rates, it will get massive blowback from consumers. And some of the same people who say Spotify should pay better will also say, "I'm not paying that." So it goes. Well, for her part, Kate Nash is a remarkably good sport about the whole thing. She's choosing to celebrate her pluck and entrepreneurial spirit in doing OnlyFans rather than be defensive about it. She knows the publicity she's getting is taking one for the team, so good for her. You might have noticed another little kerfuffle. That would be the one over the administration declaring unilateral trade war on the rest of the world except Russia last week. And while some of the collateral economic damage from that reverse business Pearl Harbor attack appears to have been mitigated this week, the war is not over. It's just de-escalated. But is what's bad for most global trade good for music? Well, it wouldn't be the first time. A lot of music rights are tariff-proof, and music is a relatively cheap thrill, making it relatively inflation-proof. Over at Billboard, the always reliable EDM, that's Elizabeth Dilts Marshall, and old friend Glenn Peoples, did a rundown. Glenn also did a wider piece on the overall effect of tariffs on the larger music economy. Beyond investments, tariffs have a way of finding their way into all kinds of supply chains, so it's likely that things like vinyl and anything physical will be affected. It's possible that other nations could target U.S. digital services, and also trade wars don't exactly stoke international feelings of kumbaya. So tourism is another vulnerable spot, specifically places like Nashville and Vegas. Glenn talked to a number of smart people in the industry, including David Macias of 30 Tigers, for their takes. And just to underscore that music rights payments look relatively steady in a challenged environment, we could have sworn we covered this already, but the German PRO GEMA reported this week that it had grown 4% in 2024. 4% is about in line with streaming growth overall, but with a low-key boomlet in technological advances in detection, operations, and AI in full swing, there appears to be a lot of growth room in the PRO sector. Finally, another financial success story to end the week. That other Swedish tech-driven music giant, flat-fee production music company Epidemic Sound, reported a very good 2024 with 150% EBITDA growth. Production music is not the most exciting sector, and flat fee is not the most exciting model for artists. But when supply meets demand, there's money over there. Epidemic CEO Oscar Hoglund said in the annual report that he wanted to, quote, soundtrack the world, unquote. Not to be confused with the Swedish band, The Soundtrack of Our Lives, good band from the early 2000s. Check them out. Daniel Tencer has the full story of Epidemic's year over at Music Business Worldwide. Support for the Unlimited Supply podcast is provided by RoyFi, which offers the lowest rates and fairest terms on advances in the industry. If you're interested in taking your career to the next level without surrendering any rights or leverage, RoyFi is your advance funding solution. And by Hangout.fm. Hangout by Turntable Labs is the new social listening platform where users connect, discover new music, and play over 100 million songs with their friends and family, and where artists have a new way to connect with fans and superfans. If you want to get unlimited supply in your ear daily, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you hear, drop us a rating and that crucial review where you get your pods, and tell a friend or three, preferably 5 times because you know the rest. Links are in the show notes, but you can also visit unlimitedsupplypod.com to sign up for our newsletter, to tell us what you think about the show, to suggest feature ideas, to feed us info, to feed us lunch, to call us out on our dubious assertions, and to tell us what we're missing out on. In the words of the great philosopher Eduardo Rivadavia, don't let your short-term greed get in the way of your long-term greed. And remember, in this business, no conflict means no interest.